Leroy caught a mistake in it, and so that's the update. And live stream is on.
Hi.
So we'll see if that happens.
There's already talking.
See, I'm being nice and I'm not even running.
Well, you're supposed to be nice.
Oh, okay.
This is from Christmas 2 years ago. I think that's Christmas, well, it's
So
2000.
the puppy weighs 103 pounds.
No, she's young.
Seriously.
I walked into a
1860.
vacant house in
So
Lacoste
here
this
he's
morning
like 17, 15.
to do a survey that was requested by a realtor.
Backyard's looking good, Darren.
Thanks.
I go up to the door, knock at the door, nobody answers. Knock at the door, nobody answers. I turn
Still got a lot of stuff to clean up there.
Actually, your front yard's looking nice.
Close the gate behind me.
Your backyard's bigger.
Yes. Yeah, these are our friends. This was my assistant city manager.
And he
I
was.
I probably shouldn't click on those. I don't know what else is there.
So I gently maneuvered my way back over to the gate and escaped.
Sorry, Leroy needed my signature on some payroll checks, so he got to meet the puppy today. Loki likes letting himself out the front door to be with me.
Did he give you a shoulder hug?
You want to come to the,
He was growling and barking
Medina
at
County
him, his
Historic
hackles
Commission
were
meeting?
up.
When is
It's
it?
like, no, you go in the
February
house.
27th in Ennis. It's going to be in the
Yeah, those are
historic,
always
their,
fun. I've made a
their
good
community
point of living in
center,
other
which is
people's
a
backyards.
old county schoolhouse that got the Lions Club converted into a community center. We're going to have Lou Lutz cater stage $50. Be sure and carry your, I'll forward you the email. But, you know, if you, some of the people there are me and Mary, Bob Hancock.
Do you have your pointer? Does it work? The pointer, does it work?
Got me to replace him.
St. Louis?
Hey, all I told you since I forget it.
Well, may have his. I may not need it. Teams wasn't able to play.
Because I kept telling him, you need to tell him. We were appointed by the county commissioners. I don't have to run.
Yeah, so, my Czechoslovakian weighs 105, the puppy
So,
weighs
I don't want to
103.
piss you off, Carl, but there are a
and the
couple
girl,
of
she weighs 100.
typos. It's not you. I'm sure.
She got me beat. That's slow, but
The puppy's still growing, he's still getting taller.
Beautiful day
He hasn't
today.
even
It's
started
gonna get
growing.
cold in a couple of days, but it's gonna rain.
Like, oh,
Fishing this weekend.
You're going fishing?
Gonna be
Where are you
chilly.
going fishing?
you going ice fishing?
ice fishing.
You go do that crazy
Catfish.
stuff.
I think, honestly, I think it was
What's it like fishing when it's 30?
Seen it?
Somebody told me a story about a
Cold.
group of
Yeah.
The fish don't care. The fishing's phenomenal usually.
yesterday.
You just going someplace where you know you can get your catfish.
No, I mean the whole lake.
because they
We're
created
gonna fish the other end. It's
Well,
actually
Alaska, I
a
mean,
little memorial
there's always
tournament we
a-
started.
Right, Deborah, you all ready?
About 2 years ago for Jeff Earhart.
Deborah, you all ready?
For
Billy Earhart's
Oh, Billy,
kid.
yes.
Jeff was a little younger than me, but
All right.
he passed
The
away
tide is
at
constantly
like
moving
51 or
underneath.
something like
Oh,
that.
geez.
And
Yep,
we were just big fishermen and
yep.
friends, you know, even though we were cousins.
Oh, that's
so
right.
So how many
Then I see
people
my
show up?
crazy relatives up in
Only
Newfoundland
4
do it.
boats signed up because of the
They're
cold
going out on
weather.
the
Normally we
North
hold
Atlantic.
about 10.
Frozen.
Yeah.
I have a nephew who
What's
lives in
lake
Denver,
now at 50%?
Okay.
and he has a place up
It's about 33
Okay,
foot.
yeah,
I
I know where
don't
that
know
is.
what that number is without looking at my app on my phone.
about this time of the year. They go out.
Data force. Those data force that tells you what the lake level is.
Yeah, I got them apps on my
Oh,
phone.
yeah.
See what time it is? You got
Yeah.
I know, she's getting it put together.
No, it's a different. Yeah, it hits 20 degrees up in Alaska. It's like, oh, we're gonna go swimming.
39%.
Are we still waiting or are we set?
We're ready, right?
Well, maybe they'll get some this weekend.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock.
Yes, we're recording now.
All set? All right. So let's call this meeting to order. It's 5 o'clock. Roll call. We've got everybody here. Thank you very much. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please stay standing for the invocation.
Thank you. Dear God, guide us in our decisions. Look over our citizens, look over our community. We pray for those that are suffering from COVID, and we look forward to a day when it will be better for all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, citizens' comments. Do we have anybody here that wanted to talk? All right, anybody online?
I have one, we have one caller, but
Okay, caller, did you want to speak for citizens' comments? All right, just please make sure that you are muted if you're not talking. All right, next, updates on governor's orders and status report on COVID-19 cases within Medina County.
As far as that, our current numbers as of is we have 35 active cases in Castroville. Divine is at 63. Divine's the hotbed still. And Hondo is at 47, and Natalia is the close third with 44. The two competing age groups are still 19 to 29, and the 50 age range are the hotbeds. So, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. The county did give an update. They only got 400 doses from Medina County in, and they're going to split up 200 doses to be issued by HEB Pharmacy and 200 doses to be issued by Medina County Hospital. They said if you're in need of your second shot, or if you're in those categories where you can get your first shot, they recommend you either go to Uvalde to get your immunization or come into Bexar County and get your immunization that way, because they have no idea when they're going to get the doses needed to take care of everybody they've already given their first shot to.
Gotcha.
So,
Perfect. And I did hear, it was disappointing that Medina didn't get more of them, but they were explaining just because there's so many doses in each package. Once you open the package, you only have a short amount of time to actually dose those out.
Mhm.
They wanted to make sure they were in populous areas, so
yeah.
it's not that far of a drive, but it's a bummer.
No,
Okay.
but they did offer those options, though, for anybody that's looking to get their next series of shots, or if they're due during that next window.
My brother's in San Antonio, and he spent 2 hours trying to get an appointment one afternoon last week. He said he achieved 365 attempts in 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
that's the downside, unfortunately. They
Yeah.
will not take you unless you have an appointment.
Right.
Mhm.
So he was unable
So,
to get one, so.
yeah, it's you know, sit there, and I've talked to other people here in Castroville who've been going into San Antonio to get their shots, and one of them was on hold for 3 hours on the phone. You know, and they said it felt like their phone had just glued to their ear, but that's the state we're in right now.
And I know that they are proactively reaching out to folks who have recently had surgeries or that they have in that group. So I've heard of a few here in Castroville that are getting that. The hospitals are proactively reaching out, and they're doing a really good job. They're doing their best to keep up. So.
And for any of our veterans that are out there, the military bases, both Lackland and BAMC, are immunizing 70 years and older right now. The next group is the 65-year and older, and anybody over the age of 16 that has a pre-existing condition will be starting to get vaccinated at the beginning of March. So those options are out there for any of our veterans, our senior citizen veterans.
Great. So everybody's just got to stay safe. We still got a while to ride this out. All right. Next item, consent agenda. We have minutes for January 26, 2021, regularly called meeting, and the racial profiling report. Any discussion?
I saw nothing.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Do I have a
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. So now, discussion and possible action on possible amendments to the Medina Valley Baseball Lease Agreement. Did you want to go over that?
Yeah, so I've
Okay.
got a few slides, not very many. I've tried to put just a couple of slides together for a couple of the agenda items, but this is one that has 3 or 4, and I will be brief, as brief as I can. If you have any questions, let me know. So just covering the basics. Obviously, the MVBA lease is something that's very important to the city of Castroville, to the council, and it's time for it to be renewed. There are some issues with our contract. I'm going to try and speak factually because I honestly, I'm an outsider and don't really have a strong opinion one way or another, but there are some things that I noticed just kind of looking through the contract that I want to make you aware of. So the areas where they're compliant, they are mowing and maintaining the facility as the contract stipulates. They have acquired their nonprofit status. I think that was done quite a while ago. And they did provide a financial report, I think sometime in mid-January. So we do have that. The list for non-compliance, unfortunately, is a little bit longer. And some of these, for a personal standpoint, I don't think are very important, but again, they're in the contract, and whether or not they're important is really for y'all to decide. So Section 3, Paragraph 2, they did not provide 6 months' notice to renew. Section 3, under utilities, we have some pretty serious concerns about leaks, water leaks that haven't been fixed, and very high water consumption. I've got another couple of slides that talk about that. Section 4, Paragraph A, they never provided us a schedule, at least staff doesn't have one. Section 4, Paragraph C, they have not transmitted a list or count of Castroville resident participants. Section 4, Paragraph D, fee schedule has not been presented to council. Section 4, Paragraph E, no meeting to discuss shortfalls. That's probably a fairly important one to the degree that we have concerns about water or usage or anything else. It would just be good for us to have a good working relationship there, and I think that's certainly something I would like to strive towards, and I don't see any reason not to. I haven't personally reached out to anybody at the association just yet, so I plan to do that in the coming weeks. And then in Section 4, Paragraph J, insurance documents have not been provided. If they have insurance, that's paramount. Whether we have the documents isn't as big a deal as we need to make sure that they do have insurance, and they're naming us as a covered insured so that we're protected in that respect. And then Section 5, Paragraph 2, list of current and future improvements have not been provided or discussed. Again, not something that's a terrible concern to the city, because it's really up to them what improvements they want to do. But I know there was some talk Councilman Shearhart brought to my awareness about a bathroom and a desire to put some bathroom facilities there, but that was mentioned at an association meeting, and there was kind of some talk about that they hadn't been able to get anywhere with the city. But I went and talked to our staff members. No one on staff knows anything about that. There was never a permit applied for, no conversations took place. So as far as we know, we didn't even know there was a desire to put a bathroom out there. So it's that kind of stuff that we need to kind of maybe get on the same page about. This is the water usage, and this is why it's kind of a concern. Those are in thousands of gallons. So you can see at the bottom, kind of as you went through the year, the amounts increased, and I believe that's attributable to a leak. So around about in May to June of this past year, they were using 228,000 gallons a month, then 268,000, then 365,000, then 389, 373, 381, and here in this most recent period, which was looks like November to December, 462,000 gallons of water. You would think, and I know it's kind of, I certainly have had this mindset in the past until I got into public utilities and understood you can't underestimate the Earth's ability to act like a sponge, because you would think there'd be a lake out there. There's got to be a pond somewhere, right? And there is, I guess, subterraneous somewhere. That water is going into the Earth, but it doesn't have the effect that you might naturally think it would. Where is it all going? But there's most definitely water going down the drain, quite literally. And that's the amount, that's the cost of that water. And this is important because the city pays for that. So it comes out of we actually cut a physical check from the general fund to the utility fund for this amount. And it comes out of, I think, park utilities, is the way we have it budgeted. So it is a concern. It is something you can see just for the first 4 months of this year. We're already at almost the total for all of last year in cost. So that's something we need to get on the stick about. And Todd, who's the appointee for the association, from the council?
There's nobody for that. We have Sheena for the Parks and Rec. So.
Well, I know they're a private association, so it's not like we're on their board.
Right.
But we need to have certainly need to have a good relationship with them
Absolutely.
and have a liaison or someone that talks to them. And I don't, as the administrator, I'll certainly go out there and have a chat, and I'm going to be cordial, I'm not going to be mean or anything, but this is something that needs to be rectified. We got to figure out what the heck's going on there.
Well, let's get through the rest of the details, and then
Sure.
let's go back to the things that were non-compliant.
Sure.
Let's talk through those, and,
So then here's just again another look at that usage. This is just kind of for information. These are in acre feet. Just know this, that we allot 20 acre feet to the city for at the airport, out of that airport well. So we have a total of 20 acre feet that we can use. And right now, so far, our highest use was last year at a total of 11.6. So we still have quite a bit of acre feet in any given year that is available. But again, the concern is the trend is upwards, and it's mostly, I mean, the vast majority of that usage is the baseball association.
In the contract, they're allowed so much acre feet, are they not?
Yeah, 12 of that 20. And 12 is, so 1 acre
12 is a
foot,
lot.
I'm learning all this terminology. I didn't know, I just didn't. So an acre foot is 325,000 gallons. Now, granted, if they're using that a month, then maybe 12 is right, because that's, 1 per month, but that's a god-awful amount of water. These are the recommended changes to the lease. Some of these are coming from our attorney, some of these are from staff, and if you'd like clarification on what is which, I can certainly do that. Removing the east side lift station from the agreement. Right now, the way it's worded, it's as if we are making an agreement with the association to utilize part of that land for our lift station. And our attorney has advised that that's not the way that should be. It should be with the airport, and then, but not with the baseball association, because they don't own the land. We do, the airport does. Establish land use agreement between the airport and parks. This will resolve one of the concerns with the FAA, where that's not an aeronautical use. The baseball association is. Well, we can do a land use with the city. We can do a land use agreement with the city, and that kind of negates that whole argument. And then the city can turn around through its parks group and lease the land to, or contract with, or whatever, with the baseball association. So again, that's what our attorney's recommending. And that's the 3 bullets, the top 3 bullets. Then we've had a recommendation from the airport board to reduce the term to a 1-year term. And I have here reduced it to less than 3 years. I think somewhere between 1 and 3 would be appropriate, especially if we start talking about trying to relocate them. I have zero knowledge of where they as an association feel, or what they feel about that. I know that these are a kind of significant historical significance to the community. Lots of people have grown up playing there. I just don't know if it's a big deal to move them or not, but that's certainly something that we want to pursue and look at doing. And I need to know where the council's thoughts are on that. And then establish and enforce contract performance process. That goes back to just things like the water leak, or they had issues with their trash charges and some other things. We just need to make sure that there's a communication process, and when that breaks down, that there's some kind of remedy for that. So we need to make sure that's happening. Mayor Pro Tem, so that's the end of these items.
Yeah, let's go back 2 of them.
Mhm.
One more? Okay. So the bottom line is the Medina Valley Baseball Association, that is a good relationship, or it's a good thing that we're doing there. It is part of what we're dedicated to, which is providing something, a service to our kids. How many people that have grown up here have gone to that? I would say probably the majority. And it's something that we need to continue to do. A bored kid is a bad thing. So I think that we need to make sure that we first and foremost commit to moving forward with that. Some of the things that I see in here, when I look at, and I think that we walk through these, and I'll tell you what I believe that our priorities are, and just let me know if you disagree with that. So I don't think that providing 6 months, I mean, it would be nice, but, in COVID times, everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do. I think that what that points out is that we need to increase that relationship with the association, increase our involvement with them in cooperation, to be clear, this is not to control them, it's to cooperate with them. But we have to have that ongoing conversation. The leaks have not been fixed. I know there's some question about whether there are leaks or not from their side. The evidence is there. It's obvious that there's something going on with it. But what I have a hard time with is going back to my wife, my neighbors, and saying, we're gonna pay all of this extra money to be able to support something that's just not getting fixed. I think this is something that we've got to do in conjunction with them. So I think that is something that we need to address. The schedule, I think that, so a lot of these is the schedule. It's nice to have, it's not imperative, but it's part of that being connected with them. Same thing with the count of Castroville resident participants. We're committed to youth sports in the community, not just in Castroville, but it's good to be able to quantify these things, to understand, so that when people question the money that we've dedicated to this, they understand how many actual taxpayers are paying into this. Fee schedule, again, not a huge thing. It's good information. It's good to know. The meeting to discuss shortfalls goes back to just the fact that we need to communicate more. I mean, we've got time after time. The last one, same thing. List of current and future improvements.
And I'll just pause. Deborah is just, our city secretary is just informed that we do have a list. I just haven't seen it. I wasn't aware we had it.
Okay.
I don't think staff was where we had it. So
They just recently sent it when they sent the,
the financials.
yes.
Okay,
There
so I
were
didn't see
several,
that.
and they
Yeah.
have a list of several.
What did we get?
A list of who is participating out there from Castroville to the
Oh, gotcha,
surrounding
okay.
areas.
Was that list of participants or of
It had-
improvements?
Well, both. I think in part of it, they was talking about I think improved maybe the bleachers or something. I really didn't read all
I
of
heard
it.
they were changing out bleachers.
Yeah.
Right.
But I can always submit that to them if you like.
Well, and I think that, to Scott's point, I think it's a good idea to bring them into the Parks and Rec. I mean, we've got to change up the contract to alleviate some of the risks that we've got with the agreement with the airport. We absolutely have to do that. But if we bring them into the Parks and Rec, that's something, if it's going to be managed through the Parks and Rec anyway, Devin, the Friends of the Park, the Parks Board, they've got great interaction. I think it's a good chance for them to get together and talk about the things that they want to do, short-term, mid-term, long-term. This is the best way for us to properly support them in that and work that through as a community effort, not just a singular effort, because the community is supporting this. The insurance documents, I mean, that's just kind of foundational. The bottom line is we need to have a relationship with them, have a conversation with them, and make sure that we are working on this together. And then, so any discussion on this part right here?
I think I'm in agreement with you. All of those that they have not done, just a simple discussion with them. And I guess the first step is who is the liaison? If it's Devin, because it's kind of two things. It's airport property, but it's Devin. The Parks and Recreation, they're the ones who are paying for it. So I would think it'd be Devin, but I think he needs to interact and then phone call, not meeting, but then say, these are the 4 or 5 items that need to be corrected very quickly. Insurance documents, do you have them? You need to provide, because those were all put in place when we agreed this last time to protect the city. Realize, like for instance, I think in the contract, there's 10% of the kids have to be from Castroville, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 10 or 20, and that's why they have to give us a list. We make sure that they're in conformance. That it was something that was very simple for them to meet, but we thought it was important for the citizens that, because we are a city council, that we not only were extending an invite to people outside the community, but we also had to kind of protect the community. Look out for the community if that's not protected. But so I would think set up Devin, if that's who it is, be liaison, send the letter out, get these other documents, and then that. But I think all of them have to be addressed because they're in the contract. We would not be doing our first share of responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities, if we did not maintain that these need to be submitted to us.
That's actually one of the questions I had for council, is of these, do we still want all these items? Because this is an opportunity, obviously, in some respects, to rewrite the contract. It's a way for us to make sure that we're addressing the issues that you all as a council care about. And if we want to check the list and say, yeah, this is all great, great.
And unless you think that there's anything that we should pull off, part of this, we should know what's going on there, not from a control standpoint, but because we need to be involved with this. We need to be a part of this, and this is good information for us to be able to have as we're out in the community and talking to people and giving them some quantification, letting them understand what a great impact that we're having on our community. I think that it's just nothing but positive having that information, as long as we're doing something with it. Huh?
I don't think that any of those items are beyond the pale. I think that sounds like a good contract to me.
I like all the bullet points. I mean, if we need to change it from, like Scott said, to parks to satisfy FAA, I'm all for that. I wouldn't support a year contract. I really couldn't. And the basic reason would be, I don't think anybody's going to argue with you that if we wanted to relocate and we sit down and have discussions with them, I think that would all be positive. But y'all know it would take time for that to happen. And I'm just saying we could start right now, but you ain't going to have nothing done in a year. There ain't no way.
Agreed.
Ain't no way. So, a 3-year contract with an option after that or something, yeah, I'm totally for that. I've been talking to some people that have been in the youth baseball organization and past and present, and I'm being told that this the ball field being in the way, I guess I'd say, for lack of a better word, of the airport property, has been kicked down the road every time the contract comes up. Every time. As far back as 2000 that I've heard. So, with that being said, they have done a bunch of things over the years. One of them was they did some kind of a survey where they had FAA and come out and they redirected all the lighting to keep it from interfering with planes that are doing the, whatever they call that, circling, the taxiing or whatever, the start, take off and land. So there's a lot of things that they have done on their end that I didn't even realize, but I haven't seen nothing on paper, but I'm being told that that was stuff that was done. But, here again, just like Darren said, we need either, I don't know if it's just Devin, but I would think city staff needs to sit down and have a discussion with these guys. Jason Bippert, supposedly the president, and Derek Griggs, I think vice president. That's the only 2 guys I know, but I think those would be the cogs in the wheel right there.
When I talked to Jason about bringing them into Parks and Rec, I talked to him about a few months ago, and he was open to the idea. When I talked to him about relocating, and I didn't ask him if we could relocate him, I just said, so what do you feel like the need is? He said, we're running out of space. We're going to need it anyway. And if you look at the fact that they're going to need the additional space to help them grow, to keep them safe, and I'm going to ask Chuck here in just a second to talk about the danger that if you guys, have you heard about why FAA does not want them there? There's danger in the location, so we'll talk about that in a second. But he said he would rather us wait until we are looking at relocating it to bring them into Parks and Rec, but I think this is the right time because we do have an issue with the FAA. We want to make sure, we absolutely want to make sure that we're in compliance with that. There could be some major fines, major issues that we have. That is a very responsible thing for us to do, and I appreciate Scott bringing that up, that we need to move that over. And then it makes just sense for Devin to include that as a part of the Parks and Recreation, because that's what we're including. I think that it's nothing but a positive thing.
I agree.
And then through the Parks Board meetings, they can have those conversations, they can come and they can represent. We've got a council member, she has been going to those and staying very involved with that. So I think bringing them into the fold and doing this kind of interaction, I think it's a really good thing.
And speaking of that, an invite was sent to Jason.
Yep.
No reply. They have been invited and have been invited and everything, especially at the last Parks meeting, because it was discussed, because the youth soccer wants a complex as well. And they're harping about getting it out at the airport. And Devin was there, I was there, David was there, and we're like, no, the FAA does not want that out there for safety reasons. It only takes one mishap to really do us in, and the city would get hammered with lawsuits.
Right.
So it's a safety reason, and I mean, David even said during the park board that the FAA keeps asking him, when is the baseball field gonna move? So rules must have changed or something in the last 20 years, but they're harping on it.
Well, maybe they have, but I'm telling you, it
I
was
know,
the
I
same
know.
topic 10 years ago.
But, so we started looking at, okay, does, you know, what land do we have that we could relocate them to? You know, start looking at it now, actively looking at it.
Absolutely.
And then we also put out there, we're like, hey, you know, go out there, if anybody knows, sees these individuals, see if maybe if the city doesn't have property, see if there's an individual that may donate land for they can build a complex. But we need
We
to.
need some insight though, as far as how much land. do we need.
Exactly, and that's why we
You're
wanna
talking
tap
way
their
bigger than
brain.
Just baseball.
Right,
If we're gonna do it, I think it makes sense
Do it
to
all.
do something so that it's big enough. And I know that-
soccer, baseball, what have you, yes, do it all, but.
Not all at
we need
once.
to- No,
Yeah.
but we need to start talking.
Right.
And so we have been sending invites out to them to come to the park boards, and no response. Youth soccer's there, and they're actively engaging with us, but
Well, the youth baseball complex, or the youth baseball organization only has one meeting a year.
yeah, but we,
And not all, there's like 16 or 18 directors or board members, and they don't even show up for the one meeting a year, is what I was told. 6 or 8 of them show up out of the group, and now they're talking about not having a meeting at all, one annual meeting, not having it at all, so.
They have to, it's a nonprofit.
and then, from what I understand, there's a lock on the baseball fields to where our people can't get onto the grounds. So if there is a water leak, how are we gonna find it and get it fixed and everything if we don't have access to get onto the grounds that are on airport property to get it fixed?
We need to fix the water leaks.
So we-
If they're there.
So there really needs, a key needs to be given to our people then, for they can get on there and find this water leak. I mean, realistically, because all that money we owe the airport, because that's airport money that's going away based off of their deed.
I agree.
So, you know,
If I can, a couple of things. The city, as you know, owns land out there separate from the airport. In talking to David and Scott, it's quite possible to make everybody happy. You can swap the land we own to the airport land. There's a corner down there that's always been designated for youth, and it's a big piece of property. There's also, would be, if you actually map out the size of the sewage treatment plant, there's plenty of room for the sewage treatment plant, there's plenty of room for both soccer and baseball fields, and swap it with the airport property, so it gets it back into a safe corner. But to do that, I think the airport advisory board, or the airport staff, and the Parks and Recreational, and I know you all are doing this new master plan, but I think that all needs to be thought about, because it would take some years, I understand, to make sure the FAA would agree to this land swap, but there's no reason they wouldn't. And by the way, Chuck Friesen was the first one who mentioned land swap, and then when he did it, it was like this light bulb went off, and I thought, hell, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So,
water and sewer out there is the biggest challenge, because it'd be very expensive to get both out there.
Well,
So
when
I
you
think
build
that-
a sewage treatment plant, it's gonna be there.
True. We are several years away from this. So to Todd's point, I agree. I think that we leave it at 3 years. I don't think that we should finalize the agreement. What I think would be good is if staff went back, made some recommendations. I mean, your high-level recommendations, totally agree with them. I think that it makes sense to leave the agreement in place, except for, we need to relook at the water. And so my problem with this is that I don't think, what do we have budgeted for that water, do you know? Who's,
As far as the amount,
yeah, because because I saw on there that last year was almost $13,000, and we're already at $13,000 for this year?
Yeah, we have about that budgeted. I think we looked at what we spent last year, and that's what we're budgeting this year, and we're already almost there, and it's only 4 months, so.
And which budget does that come out?
Parks, I believe, the utilities and parks.
I think it actually comes out, it gets billed with all the.
John volunteered.
Okay, just kidding.
Okay.
John pays for it.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
So I think that we need to take a look at that and figure out, just like anybody else, if anybody else has a leak, they have to pay for it, and this is something that has to be done. Otherwise, I think that we set it up and say, here's your allotment, and that makes it a lot easier to forecast. And I can go back to people and tell them, this is what we've committed to. Anything above that, the youth baseball is going to take care of. And if they get, if they come back with a $5,000, $10,000 bill, they're going to change it real quick and fix it. So
I think that is part of the issue,
It's
is
in
that
the
they have 12 acre feet, and so they haven't exceeded it, so they're fine, right?
Well, I think that, but we're not budgeted for 12 acre feet, and that's the thing. We need to, oh, I'm sorry, what's that?
John was raising his hand.
John?
General fund pays a check to the utilities, I guess that's what I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it comes from general fund. I talked to Leroy about it earlier. I think it comes from Parks Utilities Fund to Public Works. That's what I explained earlier.
Okay.
And in this contract, I know they have 12 acre feet, but I think if they go over a certain amount per month, they have to pay commercial rates.
Okay, so let's retake a look at that.
Yeah, but they don't, again,
It's so much
haven't
they
hit that
won't,
yet.
they won't.
Yeah, but at the same time, we shouldn't waste water, and if we
Oh,
think
no.
water's being
Right.
wasted out there, they should be just as concerned, and it's pretty cheap, easy for them to locate the leak. It's
I
on
want
their
to talk to our
property.
golf course and find out how much they use, because I think they can give them a run for their money. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
By the way, I want to tell you, the reason that sewage lift station was put in in this contract is we were building that when the last contract was talked about, and we needed to take land away from what we had originally promised the ball fields. And so that's why it was in that one. It doesn't need to be there anymore.
right. I understood why it got done, but I think our attorney, I think she would have preferred it had been done a different way originally, and she wants to correct that now, so.
It's her firm that did it last time, so that's okay, whatever she recommends.
Hey, that's what I did for you lately. Yeah.
Why can't we let city staff work through these issues?
Yeah, and I think that,
Agreed.
I think that's the best thing.
Devin has said.
Sorry, I think that's what you were just telling us earlier, a second ago, Mayor Pro Tem, is that we're gonna take this and run with it. Devin is like about to,
Can I make a quick comment on this?
Yes, please.
I have probably for a solid year tried to reach out and get communication started. Out of our whole community, our master plan has contact with everyone minus the youth baseball. And they are a huge part of it. And we're coming down to, we're going to have to make a decision that the city, if we can't get a contact and get that liaison thing, and we're trying with the Parks Board and on different avenues, but then they're just not going to be in the official city master plan if they are separate. So we're still trying. I have had multiple communications. I did see that report that came in a few days ago, a week ago, with their information, but besides that, it's been crickets.
Okay. Well, we'll get in touch with him, and I know
Yeah.
I've talked to Jason, and we're both pretty busy, and it's taking
Yeah.
some.
And I'm open to whatever. I want to make it work and get
Yep.
them in there. I would say, when reviewing this contract, since we do have contracts with, just on my side, since we have contracts with other groups that use our facilities, sometimes I get a lot of favoritism comments because other groups,
Right.
it creates a little bit of an issue when I come and try to
Well,
say, hey, I can't do
But honestly, this is something that's to legacy, and I don't want to we're spending a lot of time
Oh,
on
yeah.
this, and I think that this is really straightforward. We love the youth baseball. We want to continue the youth baseball. We all need to do this responsibly, just like we shouldn't stop the contract. They shouldn't neglect to come and work with us, and so we'll just reach out to them. So we'll make a diligent, effort, and we can't, until we get these resolved, we can't renew the contract with them. So we'll just, are you all right with us, with city staff going back, and do you feel like you have enough information to make some recommendations on that?
sure, I'm gonna parrot back what I heard tonight, and then, so very quickly, all that's okay. You're okay with all those different items? Yeah. We are looking at a 3-year, I think the current one is a 5-year, and we're talking about reducing it to 3 years. And we're gonna talk to them about their water leak issues, we're gonna talk about access to the fields, we'll talk about the other issues as far as planning, and, I mean, it's about getting FaceTime. I've not made any attempts as of yet, because I really wanted to talk to y'all first, but hopefully I'll get a response. If I don't, I'll let you know.
Cool. Yeah.
Good plan.
I think I can find out where they live. I'm not above going to work or knocking on the door, not to be a
Wear your
mean
mask.
about it, but just to let them know we're sincere. We really do want to work with you on this. It's
Absolutely.
In
important.
my world, when you want to get somebody's attention and they're not cooperating, you change the locks, then you get a phone call.
Let's, yeah, I don't think we need to go that far.
You know, if we're not getting any cooperation,
Yeah.
you can force cooperation, so.
Let the minutes note that Paul wants a lot.
Okay, so we don't need to take action on this, correct?
No.
Just
This
staff
was
direction?
discussion only, and I appreciate the comments. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for putting that together. It was really well stated. All right, so the next one, Chief, discussion and appropriate action on appointing the city administrator as the civil rights liaison for the purpose of applying for grant funding. Chief Jackson, or,
Yeah, I'll just
Scott.
mention, this is needed, it's for a, I don't have a slide on it, but it is for the grant application process. It's a federal requirement that we have a civil rights liaison, and we need to appoint somebody. I've been this person in the past at other cities, where what I've done it most often as is for the, I'm trying to, yeah, block grants. Thank you so much. For the block grants, I never did anything. It's just one of those things. We appointed me, and I never talked to anybody, but that's what the federal feds require in case there is an issue. They just want to know that the city's following all the standards and guidelines prescribed by the grant for hiring consultants or employees, et cetera. And of course, we do that. I mean, we follow all of the guidelines for hiring and make sure that we're not violating any human rights, that sort of thing. So I would be the liaison.
all right?
I would make a motion that we appoint our city administrator as our civil rights liaison for the purpose of applying for grant funding.
Easy for
I'll
you to say.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Next, discussion and appropriate action on adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application for the Rifle-Resistant Body Armor Grant, approving matching funds in the amount of $4,674.89, and designating the city administrator as the authorized official for the city of Castroville.
And I just want to clarify, those matching funds are not coming from the city. Our cost is $0. That was pretty apparent in the supporting documentation, but if you're John Q. Public reading this, you'd think the city's spending $4,000, and we are not. That's being gifted to us as part of the grant, and this is
That's
for
great.
some rifle-resistant body armor that we've never had. And it's kind of embarrassing because our cops show up to a scene and where there's someone with a high-powered rifle and everybody else has one, but our guys don't. So
Something you hope you never have to use.
right, certainly.
Can I make a motion?
Please.
I'd like to motion to approve the resolution for the city council of the city of Castroville, Texas, adopting the rifle-resistant body armor grant.
I'll second
And
it.
designating the city administrator as the authorized official for the city of Castroville to execute the grant.
And authorizing the official, the city administrator as the official officer for the city of Castroville.
All right, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Okay. Discussion and appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $91,892 with Ultraman Electric for the installation of a SCADA system at the wastewater treatment plant.
We had talked about this before. It's the only reason I have the picture up, so it's not much to see, but just reinforcing ideas. This is to put all the controls in place. The most important part, and we talked to Mayor Pro Tem earlier about this, is TCEQ and I'm trying to remember the other body, governing body, require us to have remote capabilities. Now, I did get an email from Councilman King earlier today about how hackers had utilized that system to do some bad things in a particular water system. And the fact of the matter is SCADA, it is a concern for federal governments. I don't like talking about it in public meetings because it is an area of weakness that exists all over the United States. So it's a catch-22. On the one hand, we're required to have this in place. On the other hand, the safeguards are not there yet. I mean, there are still people who can do bad things when you have a SCADA. Now, we are, of course, our engineers and others who advise us and consult the city, go to all the conferences and do all the things that to get the latest information about how to protect the city, and we will take those measures, but we're not foolproof. I mean, and I don't know anybody that is. So we'll just do our best to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on it. The good news is that, like in the instance you sent, the city was aware of it immediately. Why? Well, because they had a SCADA system. So they knew that, holy crap, someone's doing something they're not supposed to, and they went in and shut it down. So you can catch it when it happens, but we're going to. So that's what this is for. It'll basically make that, it'll make the two systems integrate that we have. The existing system and this new updates to the wastewater treatment plant will be fully automated. They'll be able to control pumps and chemical and all the different components to the system, the aerations and aeration areas and that sort of thing. So you see that listed in the supporting documentation that's in your folder. But that's what this is for. It is a budgeted item. We budgeted $95,000, and the actual cost is a little bit less at $91. It's still a lot of money.
Yeah. So did we look into the security measures? Did we have our IT vendor take a look at that and evaluate it as well?
I don't think they're more qualified than the engineer. The engineering group does have a security. I mean, the folks that we're doing the SCADA through, they go through.
They have the secure comms
Oh, yeah.
internal? Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I know Microsoft deals with this. I mean, it's something you have to stay on top of all the time.
Right.
And so we're aware of that. We'll certainly do that.
All right. Discussion?
Can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $91,892 with Ultimate Electric for the installation of the SCADA system at the wastewater treatment plant.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next item, discussion and appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $49,344 with Fuquay, Inc. to clean and televise CCTV designated gravity sanitary sewer lines.
Now, I don't have a slide on this one, but I don't think you want to see a slide on this one person, but I think there is a picture in your packet, though, of what that looks like. Yeah, I think one of the things that our utilities department recognizes is that this hasn't been done in quite a while, and it is going to be part of, we're going to get to this in a minute, of our capital planning process is to gather information, and this is a critical piece for our sewer system as far as the information gathering process. It'll help us prioritize where are the issues and you know, where do we really need to spend our dollars to get the biggest bang for our buck. So small investment, or what may not seem like a small investment, but it's a small investment to help prepare for the major infrastructure investment that we'll plan for in the coming months.
Gotta be done.
Yeah.
So this is the entire sewer system, no matter how old it is, or is there an age cutoff?
No, I believe it's the entire system, and it's the only issue that you can run into that I've run into in the past is whether the line itself is navigable. So getting through, because there are sometimes places where roots have gotten in and it's not possible, but then that also tells you there's an issue in that area.
Right.
John's waving his hand.
Yeah.
It's not the entire system.
Okay.
There's only 50,000 that we can afford this year.
Okay.
15,000 foot of it. What's the total?
For $49,344.
He was talking
No.
$50,000 amount.
What's the total linear feet if we're doing
Oh,
partial?
15, I saw it.
No. What's
For
the
the whole
total
city.
in the city?
Oh, you're gonna stop me.
Miles.
Miles?
It's under 2 miles, I believe.
Really?
So is there a particular area you're going to start on one end of the city and work your way across, or?
Actually, we're taking it, we're based off the work orders that we get.
Okay.
That's basically how
That's right.
we're kind of attacking it.
That was also mentioned in your report, how you're prioritizing it. Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah,
Any
that's a
other
good
questions?
question. Sorry, thank you.
All right, no other questions? Do I have a motion?
Can I make a motion?
Yep.
Make a motion authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $49,344 with Fuqua Inc. to clean and televise designated gravity sanitary sewer lines.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Who seconded?
Todd.
Todd? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Keep doing this. Discussion and appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $83,100 for the purchase and installation of a Holt Cat Power System Genset 1. It's an 80 kilowatt generator for the Public Works Administration Building.
I just want to announce that we've already saved you $20,000.
Thank you.
Because that was a typo. It should have been $63,100.
I thought that was a
what
little
happened?
I was looking at that.
Okay.
That's a big.
We're not going to talk about typos, though.
Yeah.
That's a good typo, though.
83.
So,
63.
this says, I know one of the questions when I was going to the packet with Mayor Pro Tem was whether or not this has been engineered, if you will, or sized right. And the vendor sized it for our use. Now granted, when a salesman, is trying to sell you a car or anything else, I'm sure there's a little bit of that goes into it. But they did take into account future growth, our current facilities, what needs we would have, and quoted us a generator that would meet those needs. So that's what this is. Again, it's a budgeted item. It's something that was approved during the budget process, and we're coming forward to this evening to make that purchase.
Well, just to call out, I had questioned it because when you look at it, we got basically a mobile home over there that we're putting a $60,000 generator on, and it's, if you take it just at face value, it seems a little bit extreme, but if you take a look at, that is our control and command center. If anything goes wrong in the city, that is the one place that's where the phone lines get moved over to. That's where command central is going to be if there's anything that happens. And part of disaster recovery is you make sure that you've got communications, you make sure that you've got operational systems. And so it's a little bit extreme, but I think it's absolutely imperative. And it is already budgeted.
It's a safety issue.
It is, yep. All right,
Can I make a motion?
absolutely. You're on fire with the emotions.
I'd like to
I mean, the
keep this
motions.
meeting going. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the administrator to enter into a contract not to exceed $63,100 for the purchase and installation of a Holt Cat Power System Genset 1 80 kW generator for the Public Works Administration Building.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, consider and take appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to enter into a rental agreement in the amount not to exceed $8,500 for the use of an Elgin street sweeper.
So in keeping with, what I've showed you, and just coming back and showing it to you again, so at the last meeting, I provided a report where we talked about the different options. And the feedback I got at that meeting was, y'all like this idea. So normally we bring it back for discussion only, but again, given the amount of the purchase and or the rental and what we're trying to do, we're bringing it forward for action this evening. $8,500 to keep our town looking clean. It'll be once a quarter that this would be utilized. So a couple of weeks or 4 weeks out of the year.
Okay, go ahead, Todd. You got a question?
I was waiting for Darren to give me permission.
Please, Todd.
Okay. Is this are we gonna sweep all the streets in Castro?
I don't know if we'll be able to do all of them in that amount of time or in a couple of weeks that we'll have it, but we'll hit all the hot spots.
Are we sweeping streets that we're gonna work on? Is that what the?
Outside of, this is more going to be focused on routine maintenance. There's money still budgeted for when we need to do streets prior to road work, along with some of the internal cleaning processes that we can apply in-house. But I would say, yes, we're going to try to do as many of the streets as possible. We even have, since we're starting a little later, possibly, and since we haven't
Wait
done
till
the
it
city,
gets warm?
we need to, what?
Wait till it gets warm is what you're saying?
No, I would say we probably try to do 2 and a quarter, and then
Because
that
we're already
way.
through one quarter, so he
Yeah,
says he has an extra quarter this year.
some of our streets haven't been done in God only knows how long, so they have a buildup, and so that could take a little longer, but with the equipment we're using, it doesn't matter if it's rainy, it's dry, it sucks it up and cleans the road, so.
So we're not sweeping streets to work on them necessarily?
No, it's just a general maintenance guideline that you try to keep the roads as clean as possible to help keep the drainages open and then also keep the streets from.
So the answer is no?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, we will clean them and when we're,
Just-
that'll be a separate process in the construction
Okay.
process, but this is just maintenance. Sheena had a
Thank
question?
Yeah, got a couple of them.
Feel free to
right.
go
Come back.
ahead.
So, last time we did this, there was a debacle. What's the city's plan of attack for notifying residents who need to trim trees back prior to the sweeping? Because last time, instead of a notice saying, hey, sweepers are coming in, the notices that were given were basically a ticket, a violation. And it caused a lot of headache, because I was one of the ones that got it, and it's like, what the heck? I
When
have
was
no
it-
trees.
When was that done?
It was done
What?
probably a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have door hangers, and the door hangers were passed out to let people know, hey, keep.
and
you
it's
know.
violation door hangers. And people were at home, and that was another thing, people were at home, and instead of talking to the individuals, letting them know it's not a violation, because she was wearing a mask, our code enforcer was wearing a mask, they just hung the violation on the door and left. So my phone blew up of, hey, you know, we just got this violation, we don't know what the heck they're talking about. So we need to be doing it right.
I can't speak on what, I thought that they had used our notices, but it might have been that we ordered those prior to that instance. We
Yeah.
have door hangers that state street work, and then we have the date on there and what is being done. So.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
not handed out. Second thing is, how much notice are we gonna give residents to get vehicles that they park on the streets off the streets for the sweepers can go? How much
Well-
notice are we gonna try to give them? And how are we gonna try to notify them?
I would assume we would try to do on every platform possible, since this is something that, you know, we can't, it's not something we have to just sit around and wait for people. So I'm assuming I would break it in sort of my tree trimming stuff I'm doing right now, sectors, and then try to notify people on what days or what. And then, I mean, unfortunately, not all the cars are going to be moved, but, you know, that's why we have someone who's trained to drive that, you know, that section's just not going to get cleaned. If the council would like to look into something else, some
I
other way to
just tell you,
communicate.
so my experience in Ennis, we didn't do any of that. We owned a street sweeper in that case, and we just drove it. And if there was a car in the way, we drove around it. And if there was a tree we couldn't go under, we didn't go under it. And that's just the way we did it. And that, to the extent that those were repeat, and I think since this is something we're investing in over the long term, that's what I would recommend our approach be.
Okay.
Because frankly, with a small staff like we have, it is, the cost to notify, now I still think we should reach out via Facebook and some of the
Right.
free.
Through the utility bill
notification
and.
processes.
Newsletter, yeah.
Exactly.
Those types of things. So we can certainly do those, but.
Short of that.
That way
Yeah.
people have just a heads up.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And if we keep
I don't
those
think we need to go
newsletters going
crazy
out.
and hand out violations to people who
Right.
really can't sweep in front of. They just aren't gonna have a clean road right there, and we will, if it's a repeat issue, we can go knock on the door and talk to them about it, and we can certainly do that. So that would be my recommendation of the approach.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's been done in the past.
And as we continue to have better and better, more relevant information in the newsletter, in the utility bill, people will actually be looking at it and they'll pay attention to it
Yeah.
and we'll call it out in there. So it's about opening up communication to the city.
Now, I
I
will
just,
tell
I
you.
just wanna make sure we do it right this time.
You're right.
not
As neighbors and
The
not as.
fallout that we
I
had.
don't know if I'm on a turn or not. I got another question if somebody else don't have any questions.
Paul, you good? All right.
Is this machine gonna pick up the debris, Devin?
Yes,
It ain't
this
gonna-
isn't like,
Okay.
It's not the one of those ones that just brushes. It
Yeah.
vacuums it up.
Yeah,
It's a
because
vacuum.
when they brushed.
we have
last time, they
options
made a
on the
mess.
usage. We chose the more expensive unit that can
Okay.
do both, that actually cleans the road versus just getting things off or out of ditches.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Devin.
They'll have water jets and brushes. and-
Please.
Yes, Phil wants to go home.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize city administrator to enter into a rental agreement in the amount not to exceed $8,500 for the use of an Elgin street sweeper.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item. Consider and take appropriate action on adopting a resolution authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving, and/or extending its airport hangar facility to serve an area within its jurisdiction. Easy for me to say, right?
And I don't know that I have more than what's in the packet to share with you. If you have any questions, I know Phil wants to get on it. Just kidding. But so loans out there, we're building hangars. The really cool thing about our airport is it's in high demand. I was talking to David today, our airport manager, about that demand. He had reduced it by 5, and it increased by like 7 or something. So now he's got 37 on a waiting list, where I think he had 33, he got it down to 29 or something, and now it's back up to 37.
Oh, yeah.
So we're definitely in high demand, and I don't think, as long as we can build these in a way where they are in the black and they pay for themselves from day one, we could build as many as we want out there almost. I mean, it certainly, we can build a bunch more to take up that waiting list, so.
Yeah, we have people waiting in line to give us money, and
Right.
So you build it day one, and it's paying for itself, and then some.
Well, and I just want to speak to this point on airports and golf courses. They're very frequently, and it's understandable why they've seen this way, but they're seen as kind of rich boys' toys because it's wealthy people generally. Now, I know a lot of very poor people that have very expensive hobbies, like planes, but the thing that gets lost a lot of times, and I know y'all appreciate this, just for the benefit of those listening in our audience here tonight, airports have a very real economic impact on a community, especially one of this size, where you have folks who are coming in and they're basically tourists. They don't come the way you might expect in a car. They come in a plane, but they get off that plane and they go golf. They spend money there. They spend money at the restaurant. They may stay at the hotel for a couple of nights. They may get an exposure to Castroville during a festival and decide, we're going to come back and stay in a bed and breakfast. So there is a multiplier effect that the airport has. So increasing that hangar space when they're the ones paying for it, essentially, is a tremendous opportunity to increase that multiplier effect on our economy. So I'm excited about the activity at the airport. I think it's great.
And to be very clear, this is not money that the city is spending. This is money that the airport is spending out of its own fund.
Yes.
So there's no burden on the taxpayers. There's no burden on the citizens.
Correct.
All right. Discussion? We've talked about this already in great detail.
Can I make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion adopting a resolution authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving, or extending its airport, parentheses, hangar, close parentheses, facility to serve an area within its jurisdiction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And then the follow-up to that, consider and take appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with KSA Engineers for professional engineering services, including but not limited to design, bidding, construction, and closeout phases of USDA Castroville Municipal Airport T-Hangar and associated improvements for an amount not to exceed $112,000.
Their actual contracted cost is $110,551. That's in your documentation. KSA, I know that the city has some history with their engineering group in the Public Works, and I've met with those engineers. I think they did a faithful job trying to serve the city under extraordinary circumstances. Their aviation division is one I've worked with in the past. I cannot recommend an aviation engineer higher than I can KSA because of the amount. I had 4 years of experience working with them on a replacement airport project, and they were just phenomenal. They were great. So I'm excited that they're already partners here in Castroville because I'm very comfortable with the level of support that they give to the city.
Well, that answered my first question. Okay.
Okay?
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd
You
like
give
to make
anybody else a
motion
chance?
Authorize city administrator to enter into contract with KSA Engineering for professional engineering services, including but not limited to design, bidding, construction, and closeout phase of the USDA Castro Municipal Airport T-Hangar and associated improvements for an amount not to exceed $112,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. All right, next one, consider and take appropriate action on adopting a resolution relating to the city's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditures of funds for the airport system's improvements not to exceed $110,000 from the proceeds of one or more series of obligations to be issued by the city for authorized purposes.
Mayor, if I may ask, or Mayor Pro Tem, would you please bar Phil King from making a motion
Yeah, I
on
think
this?
that maybe
Because
the
it's
person
not
that is.
needed, well, I was going to
our
tell you, it's not
airport-
needed. It's,
Okay.
sorry, KSA has already agreed that they don't need to be paid until USDA funds.
Okay.
So this, we didn't know that at the time we prepared this agenda. I wanted to have it on there just in case. So it's not needed, so we can skip that if you like.
All right.
And see, that's real easy. When I ask him, can I make a motion, he says no, and that's it.
All right. Next one.
It's good for him, by the way.
Consider and take appropriate action on a resolution relating to establishing the city's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds for electric system improvements not to exceed $800,000 from the proceeds of one or more series of tax-exempt obligations to be issued by the city for authorized purposes.
Again, there is a slide on this. I just wanted to remind you, we looked at this at the last meeting. We talked about the need. She's going to kill our eyes. We talked about the need to do the River Bluff improvements at my very first meeting where y'all hired me. You asked my opinion. I said, please don't spend your money without doing a reimbursement resolution. I just want to be very clear. So this was on the slide. We talked about it. This is kind of the first step, and then the next step is to go and get the data and put together a plan and then put together a financial plan. But one of the things I want to make very clear is this does not obligate the city to go and issue debt. All it does is open up the opportunity that if you should issue debt in the future, you can repay yourself for this particular project. And I put in, I think, 800,000, only because we don't know when it's going to issue and exactly how much it's going to cost. We think it's going to be around 600, but if you're doing a reimbursement resolution, it doesn't hurt to go a little higher. You're not, and plus, when you think about the fact that we're doing multiple phases, we may start another phase, and this gives us the opportunity to pay back some of that as well. But that's all this is. I know that we're going to have a lot of discussion about, well, what are our utility rates? How much, how do we support debt if we're going to issue debt? Will it impact rates? Will it impact our tax rate? All that stuff. And I don't have any of those answers, and we're going to get through that when we do the planning process, but this is crucial just to make sure that if and when we decide we want to pay ourselves back, we can. If you don't take the step, you can't do that. You can't pay yourself back.
And to be clear, this is one of those items of diligence that we've got to go through. Anything that has the potential to increase rates for anybody, whether it's utility, property, we need to be extremely careful about that. But to his point, to get the mechanism set up so that we have that opportunity. And we have, how much set aside in the budget right now? With the,
I don't know if you actually budgeted for it, but I know in your capital planning it was $600,000. Y'all were getting ready to, I don't think it's budgeted, but they were bringing forward, the night I was here,
Right.
for your approval, those expenditures and asking for approval to spend the fund balance. So I'm not asking for that either tonight.
Right.
All I'm saying is this is a reimbursement resolution. The next steps for River Bluff specifically will be to bring that forward again, basically identical to what y'all saw 3 meetings ago or 2 meetings ago. And then get that approved, then go through the contract process, get the contractor on board, start the work. And that will happen simultaneous to building the rest of the capital plan.
sure. And how long do these normally take to get put through?
What? The capital plan or the?
No,
They can start spending money now.
no, with the resolution, does it take time to set that up?
No. You're doing it tonight. When you take this step, you will, Mayor Pro Tem, you'll sign on behalf of the city, the resolution at some point, the minutes will be recorded. And that's all it takes. It's not a financial document. It's not a legal document that has to be set up. This is your action tonight is all that's needed.
Decision.
Okay.
I move that we approve a resolution relating to the establishing of the city's intentions to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditures of funds for electric system improvements not to exceed $800,000 from the proceeds of one or more series of tax-exempt obligations to be issued by the city for authorized purposes.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
I figured Sheena would want to second it.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
All in favor?
Step in the
Aye.
direction.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Consider and take appropriate action on accepting the quarterly financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2020.
Mr. Vidalis.
You have that in front of you. I mean, where you want to be at this stage, you're a quarter in, so ideally, you're spending 25% or less of your expenditures. And if you've estimated your revenues conservatively, as most cities should, then you will have received 25% or more of your revenues. And that's, you can see, that's more or less where we are. So the revenues on the left-hand column in blue, the expenditures on the right. So you can see, for the general fund, all in all, we've received about 29% of our revenues for the year, and we've only spent about 22% of our expenditures. So that's about where that should be. Airport's a little bit higher because they've, of course, had all this construction out there and been doing the things they've been doing. So you should be aware of those expenditures. And then following this one, we have our investment report.
And this includes all that equipment we authorized, and that's still well within where everything is, so it looks good.
All right. Do we need to take action to accept this?
Yes.
please.
Yes. All right. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion. Can I make a motion? Yes. I make a motion accepting the quarterly financial report for the period ending December 31st, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Number 20, consider and take appropriate action on accepting the quarterly investment report for the period ending December 31st, 2020.
And I just want to point out that the one in your packet unfortunately had some errors. It didn't show the withdrawals that had taken place. So we have two funds. These are the Clean Water State Revolving Fund funds from 2015 and 2017. Those are now zeroed out. So that money has been spent or applied to the projects where it was used. And so that's why those are now zero. You can see that we're making a whopping 0.01% on our money. So it's actually something I do want to talk to our financial advisor and director of finance about, is using something more like TextPool where we can get, a whopping 0.04% maybe.
4 times as much.
Yeah.
Extra $10.
They'll have $80.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Do I have a motion, Phil?
I'd like to make a motion accepting the quarterly investment report for the period ending December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Who seconded that one?
Todd.
Todd? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next, we are going to go into executive session. The City Council will meet in closed session under provisions of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.085, entitled Deliberation Regarding Economic Development Negotiations, Project Square Deal. The time is 6:09.
And live stream will stay on.
Live stream's on.
Live stream is on. Chat amongst yourselves.
Don't do anything stupid.
Or do. We'll go back and watch it later.
Fun to watch later.
I bet Queen Nicole was.
Okay, all right, if you have any questions, let me know.
Here, have a sucker.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I've been used to that before.
Well,
Was there anything coming out of this executive session? You know, hang around your knees?
no. They did.
crickets.
Dang, everybody abandoned us?
Yeah.
Chief too. I feel so insecure.
Still there.
Where's everybody?
They all abandoned us.
The neighbors started taking down the fence.
Is your battery still good?
Hang on just a second, I'll check. I see you behind that. Yes, we didn't take near as long.
Good.
All right, you all fired up over there? Just let me know when you're ready.
I have the recording part back on, and we're still on live stream, yes.
Okay, we are going to reconvene in open session at, 6:49. We have no action from executive session. Discussion on future agenda items. Let's start with Sheena.
We were supposed to get Waste Management to come and give us a briefing regarding the safety hazards that were identified regarding when the new trucks are emptying garbage cans, that's hitting power lines and trees and stuff, and so.
When was that from?
Huh?
When was that from?
It was requested back in December.
Okay.
For the January meetings, because it had been observed when they're going in front of businesses and everything, the new garbage trucks are picking up the garbage cans, and it's hitting the power poles up top, or it's hitting trees and knocking down limbs and everything onto,
Yeah.
roads and stuff
Right.
like that. So we need to look at
We'll try to
how
get
we're
it
going
over
to
Chris
address
Cox, I
that
guess.
safety issue.
Yeah, we'll get them out here.
Yeah.
Or do it virtually or something.
But otherwise, that's all.
Great. Paul?
I hope to have my preliminary report on paper streets, probably not by next meeting, but in March.
Okay. I have something, but I'll wait till the end. Bill?
Nothing right now.
Okay. Todd?
No, nothing other than just to add to Sheena, I think I need to trim my trees in my house too, because I gotta put my can just in a certain spot so the trucks don't hit it when he goes over. But I put that on myself to trim the trees, so I don't know. If I can get the city to do it, that would be good.
Well,
No, my
This is in front of
would not let the
businesses.
city do the tree, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we'll do it. You won't like the
No,
result.
I know. No, sir, I got
They
nothing.
start trimming at the ground.
Phil's ready to go home.
no, related to Todd's comment, I seem to recall that it had to do with the sprinkler system meter inspection fees. Did we ever resolve all that?
No.
I thought the staff
The
was gonna.
backflow prevention, you mean?
the
Backflow
prevention,
preventers,
the
testing.
inspection, Because,
Well, I think that's on our pending list to come
Yeah.
back and review the ordinance or have some
Yes.
feedback on it.
Yeah,
We're trying
It
not
is
to
on
have
our
midnight
pending
meetings.
list.
Because I brought that one up.
Yes, it's on our pending list.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that something y'all want to see pretty soon?
well, just need, because I think right now our ordinance is in conflict with,
With the state requirements every 2 years.
Not only that, and I don't
And the
think we're
city
testing all of
sends
them.
out a notice saying that it has to be done every year, and it's not.
Well, the city itself is not testing individuals.
Well, so I think that let's not discuss this, but
Yeah,
let's put it
but-
on
Yeah.
as soon as
Future
practical.
agenda item.
How's that?
as soon as
Yeah.
practical.
There you go.
Got it.
And you guys are doing a great job of prioritizing those and getting us out before midnight. So the one other thing, Scott, again, I got to thank you a lot. He's been collaborating really, really well and making some suggestions, recommendations, and just kind of pointing out how some other folks are doing things. So I really appreciate the wealth of experience and insight that you bring to that. I would like to start looking at doing some report outs. I'm just going to introduce the idea. I think that we step into it as we get into some of our planning sessions, but I'd like to maybe look at putting an agenda item, at least for right now, that would be just a report out on projects, on things that are going on. I'd like to start to formalize that so that we're tracking things and quantifying them, but for right now, I'd like to just put one on that is, can we put it as general as a mayor and council update?
Yeah, I'll look and see. What you're talking about is, I talked to Mayor Pro Tem about Bastrop, the city of Bastrop, and how they run their meetings. Their mayor, in personality and how, kind of her desires and how she runs her meetings, reminds me a lot of Darren. And I think.
Well, she is a Schroeder, so.
Yeah, is she?
Yes, yes.
Are you serious? I've forgotten that. That's so funny. So,
That's unbelievable.
so, yeah, so,
Related?
Sure.
so we will, again,
Mine
this isn't deliberation, but what he's referring to is well, I'll talk to Deborah how they must post that. But what she does is she does a mayor's report that is as in-depth as the report that I gave at the last meeting, right? So she goes through and talks about each item as the mayor, but she's a full-time mayor. She's retired, and that's all she does, really. And then each council member does the same thing, basically, but in a shorter, so if you were on baseball or whatever, you're on airport, well, you might have a slide about the airport, and you might just talk briefly about what you did that month related to the airport. So I think that's what you're referring to.
Yep.
I'll talk to Deborah about how that would play out.
So your report is on council doing projects. I'm sorry, I was
Yes.
thinking staff.
No, it would be
Council.
on council. And this is, as I watched a couple of those, it's a great way to talk about the things that we're doing out in the community.
Right.
They're announcing things that are going on, and so just making sure, because we actually have a fair amount of people that are watching this, giving them, and I think that we need to put it up front so that they can get off during the boring stuff if they
So
want.
if y'all have time, the first 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube, just look Bastrop City Council. They have a YouTube. First 10 to 15 minutes of a couple of meetings, or pick one, and you'll see what we're talking about. And then talk to the mayor pro tem if that's something you want to pursue.
Well, and part of this, if you already have an item that you want to talk about, you can let us know and we'll list it, but,
Sure.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, that's all I have.
Phil?
I'm so sorry.
No, I was thinking I was making a motion to close the meeting, but you know how to do it now.
Okay, so we are through all of our agenda items, so if there's no objection, thank you, whatever that word was, let's adjourn. We are adjourned at 6:55.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Y'all keep warm. Make sure you got
It's
your
coming.
covers on and
Winter is
everything.
coming.